That's by S's.
Yeah, you've
Still,
got. I can hear it a little bit, but it is
mhm.
improved. So we're making the right steps here. You said you'll be able to get your contraption in soon. So good. For those that don't know, Justin had to have some pretty severe mouth surgery, and he's on the mend. We're going to talk about a couple players on the mend, and then we're going to get into some ice cold hitters and play a little hold or fold. It's going to be league dependent. I understand that, but we're going to talk about where we might cut these guys, if at all. But let's get into some news. And Eduardo Rodriguez is working his way back. He made a AAA rehab start this time out, allowed 1 run in 5 innings. He's, going to be back in any moment. Eduardo Rodriguez, for all the ugliness of his ERA, if it wasn't for that start, like right before he went on the IL, he really did look fine. I think he was at like 3.72 ERA. With a good whip, and then that last start before he left, was a third of an inning, 6 base runners, and 3 runs. It really kind of pushed things over the edge there for his 8-start sample. What do you think we can get from Eduardo Rodriguez down the stretch, as he should be back relatively soon?
I mean, I think we can get probably the best player that's going to be left on the waiver wire rest of the way. So I think if he's available in any league, you need to pick him up right now. And hope that he is kind of the guy he was prior to the injury, prior to going on the personal leave stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I tried to pick him up in the main last week. Our good buddy Michael Govier outbid me because I was too cheap, unfortunately.
My fellow Tigers fan there. What did he end up putting on?
Not much, and that's the part that kills me. Like it was like $3 or $4. I just put $1 down.
Yep, $6.
Yeah, so that's a huge bummer for me. But yeah, I mean, I think especially because I would expect them to want to try to get him kind of built back up, so get as many innings as he can in this year. So that way,
he's 5 in the AAA. So I think when Eduardo comes back, he's ready to go for the Tigers. And like I said, 3.72 ERA, 1.18 whip before the crummy start that I think it was the IL and then restricted list, or did he go straight to the restricted list?
Yeah, he was on a rehab assignment when he was when he left. Yeah,
that's what I thought. So that injury outing there, I don't feel like it's just cherry picking to remove it. A third of an inning, 6 base runners, 3 runs. That's not who he was. The first 7 starts, Eduardo was himself. 3.72 ERA, 1.19 whip. I think he can be that guy. I'd pick him up in every format right now with the opportunity to really find a starter. And starter wires have been barren across all formats, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so somebody like Eduardo could be huge.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at just the 5 starts he had prior to that really bad blow up, he had a 3.19 ERA and a 1.03 whip. I mean, he's a legit top 30 pitcher rest of the way if he's able to get the innings. It's a good park, good division. Yeah, I think.
Let me ask you, who would you prefer, Eduardo Rodriguez or Lance McCullers, who's working his way back and should be back soon? But
Rodriguez.
Off of severe injury, and that's why I prefer Rodriguez too, because I think McCullers could be more built up, and he just has a dodgy health profile. So
I think they're going to be really careful with him. I mean,
because they have 6 now, and they're not going to go 6-man. JV's not going to go on a 6-man. I don't.
Yeah,
think. I don't think the other veterans want to either. But I think obviously he can kind of dictate things a bit more as a Hall of Famer who's currently playing. Let's go to Jared Kelnick. He's demoted because J-Rod's back. Everyone knew that was coming. Justin, he was terrible again, man. And I know we've talked about him, and I feel like every time we bring him up, it's worse. And the only reason we keep bringing him up is because I feel like things keep changing, which for me is the ceiling keeps lowering. I know prospect growth isn't linear, right? We talk about it all the time. He is just 22. So I'm not hard burying him here and saying it's over. Kelnick will never become anything. However, players do not often, I don't want to say ever, basically, recover from 30% strikeout rates to become, like premium hit guys. He might still find some power speed capability, but he has a 31% strikeout rate in his first 500 plate appearances. I'm not sure how much improvement Kelnick's going to have over that, even in the coming years here. As a 22-year-old, I'm very nervous about the long-term aspect of Kelnick at this point. I've lowered his ceiling substantially. What about you? Where are you at with Kelnick now?
I mean, I would disagree in terms of lowering his ceiling. I think the ceiling is still there. It's the floor, I mean, is clearly.
How can it be though? How can you have the same sort of like hit tool potential? Because he was never a strikeout guy like this. I have to have changed his outcomes in terms of what I think Kelnick can be because of all this swing and miss that I just don't think he's going to fix.
I mean, he struck out a 23.7% rate in the minors this year. This feels like it's mental. It feels like he has just got some sort of mental barrier when he gets up to the majors. He's pressing. I mean, now this latest sample was atrocious, right? It was over 40% strikeout rate, no walks. Yeah. And he walked at an 8% clip in the minor leagues this year, and has shown the ability to walk at a double-digit rate. He struck out over 40% of the time. I know it's been bad, but I mean, if there was ever a buy low, Just
about to say.
Yeah, it's now.
I'm not giving him. This is a real buy low for Kelnick.
I'm not giving up on him. He's 23 years old, and I think he just turned
literally
23.
Not even a month into his age, 23. So are you going to go out and buy Kelnick then?
Absolutely.
You play Dynasty, so you can go out and do it. I'm not. I have one Dynasty league, so I'm not a big time Dynasty. But I think that's what we're talking right now with Kelnick. And this is a buy low. It's ugly. There's nothing there to make you think. So it's just your belief and the fact that he's only 23 years old, which I can get behind because the price should be dirt cheap right now. But again, I have lowered his ceiling. I am worried about the swing and miss. I agree with you on a mental block. I'm just not sure he overcomes it. So I do have nerves about Kelnick.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely understand. Like you said, I mean, this is all just, a hope and a prayer. There's not much in the profile, at least that we see in the major league level, that tells you, hey, he can be a star one day. I still think that's in his range of outcomes. The problem is the bottom end of that range of outcomes is not a major league player
now. Yeah. And this is why you do 2 trade grades. You grade it at the time based on the process and what everything looks like, and then you got to grade it down the line. Now we're not on the second grade yet, but obviously when it first happened, it was like, LOL Mets, they're the stupidest organization ever. And now we're at the other end of the spectrum where it's like, holy smokes, they actually won this deal by trading a premium prospect for a closer. And then we'll see where it's at actually after Kelnick, gets 5-6 years under his belt, and we got to see what's going on. So it's still up in the air for that second grade, but the Mets are looking a lot better right now with the Kelnick trade. Let's move over to somebody a bit more exciting on the youth spectrum, and that's Vaughn Grissom. Not related to Marquise. I thought so too, until I recently learned more about him. I vaguely knew the name, and I assumed it was just Marquise's kid, 100%. Until last week when he started to get some buzz. Then he's on his way up, and I'm like, okay, I got to learn about this guy. And I fell in love with him instantly, Justin. He went combo meal his first night with a disgusting bat flip, and I'm head over heels for Vaughn Grissom already. I know the immediate counter is what about when Albies gets back? I got an answer for that. If Grissom's playing well, and he's probably got about a 3-week audition here. Albies late August, early September. I would say early September is when he's going to come back. If Grissom's playing well, I think Rosario Ozuna just becomes a platoon and they can facilitate Grissom and Albies. So I'm not worried from that end. I think Grissom's in all formats get right now just because of how strong he was in the minors and what a game changer he could possibly be. He could be another Michael Harris. He might not be, but I'm picking up Grissom everywhere. What say you?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to take the gamble, right? Because, I don't think it'll be in sharper leagues, leagues like NFBC, obviously it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but like in your Yahoos and your ESPNs, like people won't pick him up. Like they just, especially
he's not a big name prospect.
Well, and he was in Double-A. Like he skipped Triple-A. So
did Michael Harris, by the way.
Yeah. It's awesome to see organizations like the Braves be aggressive like this. I think you got to pick him up. There's power, there's speed. I agree with you. I wouldn't say that the Ozuna and Rosario become a platoon. I'd say Rosario just stops playing because he has been dreadful. Unless they want him out there for the defense,
I think, I think it'll still be a platoon. Aren't they trying to give him like a real shot with his new eyes and everything? Because he's still adjusting to that.
Yeah,
because remember
but
he
it's
was out getting
at some
his
point
eyes.
you gotta like produce. Like
I hear you, but it's a 715 OPS in August. I'm not banging down a door for a 715, but that's in the range. You know, a couple homers and Rosario's probably back where he needs to be. So I either way, whether it becomes a platoon or Rosario loses time, there's a path for Grissom and Albies if Grissom is performing. And I think the Braves will stick with him if he's performing. So we take the shot right now. He might be a flash in the pan and it's too soon and he has to go back down. I understand that. I accept that range. I'm getting Grissom everywhere I can.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, 14 homers, 27 steals between high A and double A this year for the 21-year-old middle infielder.
While striking out at a below 15% rate at both of those stops.
And taking some decent walks, right? Because he has 36.
He walked a lot in high A, did not walk really at all at double A.
Okay. So took advantage of the lower level. Once he got up a little bit, they were like, you know, he wasn't walking as much. But hey, when you're producing, I'm not as worried about it. So Vaughn Grissom, go get him this weekend. We'll see what's up. I think, again, it's in all formats. You can end up cutting him quickly in a 10 or 12, but the upside is some Michael Harris action again. Tim Anderson has finger surgery. Is he an auto cut? We're looking at about 6 weeks here, right? Got to be an auto cut.
There's only 7 weeks left in the season.
9.
Is it?
We are in 8 more after this week. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So still
we are in 18, or we are in 19, and it goes to 27.
Okay.
So we have 8 more after this week.
Really? Goes that late into October?
I mean, at least based on NFBC, I was looking because I was breaking down the week stuff, and it said we have a week 27, and so that goes to
with the late start,
a week. So it does go through October 9th.
Well, still, that's 3/4 of the rest of the season.
It's still an easy cut for me with Tim Anderson.
And you hope he's back in 6 weeks. But what happens if the White Sox are out of it, which is a reasonable thing to happen at this point in the season? They're just going to shut him down. So, like, obviously, if you have an open IL spot, he goes in it. But if you don't, like, I'm not wasting a bench spot on Tim Anderson. It's been like just an awful year for injuries in general. But I mean, just an awful year for Anderson as well.
Yep.
It's hard to see him go down this way.
Just a washout. Such a fun player to watch. I really like Tim Anderson. It's been a tough one. I mean, he hasn't been terrible, but it's been underwhelming for what he can do. 6 homers, 13 steals with a 301 average, but he's only played 79 of the 112.
And that's it. He's been good when he's been on the field. He's had trouble staying on the field.
Yeah, and now he's going to miss a massive chunk of the remainder of the season.
How do we like rank him for next year? Because while like you don't necessarily want to call him injury prone, he hits the IL every single year for something.
I think and with the standard that you've set, you have to call him injury prone.
I think you do, and that's what I'm bringing.
I'm with you on this one, yes, because you're looking at 2019, $123, the 2020 season. Who cares? 2021, $123 again. This year, 79. Even he comes back, I'll give him 15 more games. Who cares? You know, like I'll give him 20 more games if he miraculously comes back early. That would still only be 99. He wouldn't get to 100. So yeah, that's the last 3 full seasons severely cut. And in the other 2, 19 and 21, he put up enough, 18 homers, 17 steals in 19. And then he flipped it in 2021, 18 steals, 17 homers with excellent average, great runs scored and a decent amount of ribbies for when he's playing. But yeah, I think you do have to bring Tim Anderson down because he's consistently gotten hurt. He's going to be 30. Yeah. You have to. Now, will you be there to take the discount? Because I think you're right that the league, the whole context will move him down. Will you be into swoop?
I won't be opposed to it, but it'll be unlikely that I do. Well, the shortstop is so deep, and it's just so
why take on extra injury risk?
In my 3-sport league that's drafting right now, he was the 92nd baseball player taken.
Wow, that's a fall. That's a fall, and it's merited. It's absolutely merited. So that's Tim Anderson again. If you have an IL, keep him as long as you can. But we're talking like NFBC where you don't have ILs, or in obviously a lot of leagues where you only have like 2-3 ILs, you might have higher priority guys, and Tim Anderson can be an easy cut. All right, let's get into some ice cold hitters. Just looking over the last 2 months or so since June 12th. It's not a full 2 months because of the All-Star break, but it gets the idea done. And we're talking about a range of players here. So they're not all in a specific league format where they'll cut, and we'll try to specify, or not try, we will specify where we're cutting them. Let's start with Jared Walsh, who is a comically bad 38 WRC plus since June 12th. And, obviously things have gone completely south for the Angels, starting with the 14-game losing streak. But Walsh has been pretty bad on the year. 14 homers, 224 average, 83 WRC plus for the season. He's still rostered at 70% of ESPN leagues, 65% of Yahoo. I don't even need to get into the NFBC leagues before I realize that those numbers are too high. Why is he that highly rostered at this point with Jared Walsh?
I don't know. I really don't get it, to be honest. I don't think you can. I mean, on the plus side, he's hitting just as well against lefties as he is against righties, but that's just because he's hitting so bad against both.
Yeah. By the way, 93% OC, 98% main event too. So
he's crazy.
Heavily rostered here for Jared Walsh, and he sucks this year. I'm sorry, he's just been bad.
And and the team context is awful around him. It's also
bad too.
Like, even when he gets a home run, it's a solo. Like
he should not be that rostered in any of those 4 formats.
No, I mean, at this point, you got to just let him go and move on to whatever's on the waiver wire. I just don't.
Got to be something better. Let me just look at the 12 team. I'm in my OC real quick. Give you some first baseman. Yandy Diaz, I would take him. Easily. Isaac Paredes, I know he's cooled, but I might almost take him.
Yeah, because he's playing pretty regularly with the injuries in Tampa Bay. So yeah, I probably would.
What about this new guy with Washington? Are you familiar with Joey Meneses?
I'm not, but he's been pretty hot. I think I would ride with him.
Finally, journeyman, one of these guys, if people remember the name Mike Hessman. I don't know if he has that kind of power down there, but he's one of those guys who's been around for a while in the minors, grinding, and got his call here, and he's making the most of it. With 4 homers already in 7 games for Joey Meneses. I would take him over Walsh because Walsh is hurting me. I might cut Meneses in 2 weeks, but I'd rather have him. And Vogelbach is 25% at them.
Oh, yeah. Vogelbach's teams. He's playing pretty regularly. And did you see his walkout music the other day?
No, what was it?
He came out to Milkshake.
Yes, I heard about that. I saw it on Twitter. I didn't see the clip, but I heard about it, and I love that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
He's such a fun player. He's such an unbelievably fun player. But yeah, so we're cutting Walsh everywhere right now.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that I have a disconnect of fantasy versus real life because I really do like JP Crawford. And, watching Seattle games like that, Yankees won the other day was such a great game. And his defense, you see why he's still beloved in Seattle, even though the breakout season that he was having early has come crashing back down. And he's basically matching last year now, which is fine. But he had a 1023 OPS in April. It's like, is the breakout coming for JP Crawford? He hit 3 homers with that 1023 OPS. He has 2 homers since and has not eclipsed 676 for a month of OPS. And yet he's 72% at ESPN, which caters to shallow leagues, and 98% in the main event, which is 15 team leagues. So that runs the gamut. And I don't think either of those rates should be that high. You mentioned the depth of shortstop a moment ago. Why is JP Crawford still 98% in the main event? What's he giving people?
I mean, I guess everyday playing time because he's such a good defensive player, but that he doesn't come out. But I mean, he's actively hurting you at this point. Like I don't know. There is a guy on this list that I've been starting on my main event, so we'll get to him in a minute. I
could see some of these names. There's some good names here that we're going to get to. These first couple are a little bit easier. The decisions are going to get tougher here. So let me see real quick. Where does Crawford rank on the year? Yeah, he's 37th at shortstop, Justin. Why is he 98% in the main event?
No, and I mean the thing is too. Since beginning of July, he's no longer leading off. He's batting towards the bottom of the order. So on top of sucking, he's also not getting as many plate appearances, which is the only reason you really drafted him.
Yep.
Was because he was going to be leading off for what was going to be a really, really good team in Seattle. Seattle, I think, is going to be a really, really good team rest of the way, but he's not leading off. He's hitting 7th, and he doesn't offer power. He doesn't have very much speed in the from a fantasy sense. Yeah, I think you just got to let him go.
Yeah, it's just not there. And like I said, ESPN, easy cut, but main event, 15 team deep, everything, a starter like that. I understand you're like, wow, that's tough to cut him. He plays every day. There's no fantasy goodness there for JP Crawford. I don't understand why he is still on so many teams. Let me give you a couple names here. See where you're at. Would you rather have Geraldo Perdomo, who has 2 homers and 2 steals in the last 2 weeks? And JP Crawford has 5 homers and 3 steals on the season, by the way.
Perdomo's probably also hitting like 210.
206. So that's absolutely fair.
I know because I've got him in my dynasty league that I'm actively tanking, so I need a player who plays every day, but is going to
But it's bad. So Perdomo, come on down.
And I mean, I like Perdomo as a long term prospect, but I think I'd probably. It depends on what you need. Like if you need some 50, power,
I'd rather just have him because I don't know. Again, his 2 homers and 3 steals in the last 2 weeks or whatever I said. I forget exactly what it was. 1 homer and 2 steals. That's all. That's almost as much as JP's done all year. Yeah, so I would rather just take him just to see. I mean, there's not a ton in this 15 team, so I guess I understand it a little bit, seeing more of who's available. Like, yes, shortstop is deep, but that we drafted all of them. I'll tell you what, though, even though he's been bad in the majors, I'm not out on Jose Barrero. I'd take him over JP. Right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I just go for that. All right, that's JP Crawford. Eduardo Escobar. He's at a 57 WRC plus the last 2 months. 59% at ESPN, 41% at Yahoo, 79% in the main event. Again, I think all 3 numbers should be lower. Why are people holding on to Eduardo Escobar? He actually, you know what? He's a perfect candidate for your big theory this year about those mid-tier power guys. The squishy ball hurt them the most.
He was my biggest fade. Yeah, he was my biggest fade coming in at third base this year. And I got some pushback, which I was surprised about. But I was
from me, to be honest. But you were correct. He's not good this year.
I was worried about where he's going to hit that lineup, and then the park. That park was a much more difficult park for him. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of all come to fruition. He's going to be on the short side of a platoon here. The Mets already talked about that they're going to start platooning him. I said much better against lefties, so I think that's what he's going to be. He's going to hit against lefties and sit versus righties. That's you can't roster that in outside of NL only.
Yep, you said in your comments on your second base comments, hate the park and the fact that he will likely hit near the bottom of the order when you ranked him 23rd. So you've been out on Eduardo pretty much from the jump. I don't understand these roster rates here. I know he's on a high quality team, and a lot of times guys just being on great teams, you hang on to them. But some of these shallower formats, I just cannot fathom what Eduardo's giving you to keep him. He's at 220 on the year with 12 homers, 0 steals. What are people doing with him still on their team? Now, this next guy, I understand why people want to roster him, but he's not even delivering what he's supposed to. And that's Myles Straw. That might have been the guy you're referring to that you're starting. But he's at a 51 WRC plus over the last 2 months with just 2 steals. And Justin, he's only got 13 on the season this year with a 210 average. I'm telling you, this is why I don't draft these clowns. Okay. When it goes south, they are unusable. And this is obviously a lower tier outcome for him. For Myles Straw, he had 271 last year with 30 steals, 86 runs. 210 this year, 13 steals, 54 runs. Should he even be 87% at the main event and 74% in the OCs?
Yeah, this is the perfect example of a player that needs to be rostered in every league, but doesn't need to be rostered on your team necessarily. So it's really, really team by team context. If you need stolen bases, and if you drafted Myles Straw thinking you were going to get 30 plus out of him, you probably need him, right? Yeah. So you probably got to keep running him out there. But I completely understand people who've moved on, and this happened to me in my main event with, I can't remember with what player last year. And I just made a decision around this time where I went, why am I even trying to compete in stolen bases? Like, I'm so far behind because my guy that it was it Margot, or I can't remember who I invested in someone. And so I dropped Myles Straw down to the waiver wire, gave someone else like 20 stolen bases the rest of the way, but it wasn't going to be enough to catch me up to the pack.
Exactly. And
so
that's actually a great jump off to promote my article that I wrote yesterday. It's time to start making sharp decisions. And that is a perfect example of the kind of decision I'm talking about. You audited your standings and you saw that, hey, even if he steals a bunch, I can't gain much. And if I cut him, I'm not going to lose much. I could get a power player who might hit 6 homers the rest of the way. And those 6 homers would give me 4 points because of what they do for homers, runs, and ribbies, whereas Straw can't do anything. You need to go through and make those decisions. And a lot of times it ends up where you're either hyper-focusing or punting the saves or steals, and you make moves accordingly. And you might end up saying, hey, I can't compete in saves anymore, so I'm going to cut somebody like Jordan Romano. Do not be afraid to do that. You might have been nervous to cut Straw because people are going to be like, oh my God, Justin cut Straw. Why is Straw on the waiver wire? Who cares? If you're making the best teams for your moves for your team to compete, don't worry about who you're cutting and what sort of like sour grapes people might have because you put a good player in the waiver wire. There's also strategic upside to that too, because say you cut a Straw, somebody spends $48 on him of their remaining, 65. That's a big chunk, and that person is now out of a lot of the bidding. So I think making those sharp moves is difficult, but very, very advantageous to commit to a plan here.
Yeah, I think you have to. I mean, you also want to take a look at things like, hey, who has the most fab in your league? If that team that has the most fab in your league is your main competitor, you may not want to drop something that can help them up in the standings. But
exactly,
if it's someone who can maybe catch your main competitor, if you're not competitive in stolen bases, but your competitor is, and getting Straw onto another team can help that team pass your competitor. There you go.
And you obviously can't go tell that person to pick him up, right? Yeah, that is flat out collusion. But you cut him and you're just like, okay, Johnny 2 cents, now you need to go pick him up for me for this plan to work. But you do the best you can. And again, I've talked to people that have had problems, with these cuts, with these like jarring names. And I'm like, you can't be worrying about that. If you're making the best moves for your squad, you just got to do what you got to do. And, Rob DiPietro in my league last year cut Logan Webb down the stretch. He was going for all closers, and he was trying to get as many saves as he could. I picked him up, and it was actually very helpful for me to seal the deal in that league. So thank you, Rob. And, people might make some similar cuts this year to help other people. And I think you need to be very strident about that right now and start making those cuts. So that could include Myles Straw. You might have to give up on steals, or you might have to pivot to steals and cut somebody like one of our next 2 guys. Let's put them together. Nelson Cruz and JD Martinez both have a 58 WRC plus the last 2 months. They're widely rostered. JD is 100% across the board. Nelson Cruz is 76 at the OC, 89% at the main event, 63% at ESPN, and 53% at Yahoo. I think all of those across the board are too high. JD Martinez does have a good average this year, but doesn't he have like 9 homers? Yeah, he's 9 homers in 9.
His last home run, JD Martinez, the last home run, July 10th.
He is hitting 276, which is pretty decent. But what should these guys be held right now? JD Martinez and Nelson Cruz. Where are you cutting them if you are?
JD Martinez in the second half is hitting 127. Like I said, no home runs. He has 3 runs scored and 6 RBIs.
That's horrendous.
There's got to be an injury. There has to be an injury. Nelson Cruz may just be cooked. For those of you who've been screaming from the rooftops for the last 10 years that Nelson Cruz is cooked, you finally got one right.
You finally got it right. Yeah, but you don't get credit, okay?
Yeah, no.
I'm happy to have recommended him all. I stand by the recommendation all the way down, because even this year there was a discount tied to it. I bought back in. You know what I'm going to take away from this season from Nelson Cruz? The 4 steals that I got, Justin. That's what I'm feeling this year, is those 4 steals and his 8 homers. But yeah, I think he is not.
Cruz is the guy I've been holding on to him in a lot of leagues. He's going to be in the waiver wire this week. On top of the fact that he's not hitting, that lineup around him is atrocious. it is legit AA worthy right now. So JD Martinez, I have a really hard time dropping because he was so good in the first half. You have to wonder if there is an injury. I don't have a problem necessarily dropping him. I don't know that I could do it.
I could do it. I could definitely do it in a 12 and lower, but in a 15, if the right guy is there, it always goes back to who's available, right? And I want to be clear about that with all of these. Don't just cut somebody because you heard our dumbasses saying like, well, they said cut him to pick up, and I picked up Victor Reyes or some shit. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. We're not asking you to pick up dumb, crappy players. But if you see somebody like, let me ask you this: 15 team, would you pick up JD Davis for JD Martinez?
I would definitely do it for Cruz. I don't know that I would do it for JD Martinez.
Okay.
The only problem is now that Longoria is back, does he play every day?
That is fair. And that's your ball club, so I know you're dialed in on them.
Yeah, I don't know that he does. But I mean, he's endearing himself really quickly to Giants fans. He's been great.
3 homers real quick, dude. I know I've been attempted to be convinced by some Mets fans why they did well in that deal. I still think they traded for the older version of the guy that they dealt.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear these arguments because
I don't get it. I usually just get some circular reasoning that's like usually fluff. To be honest, if I'm being honest, Mets fans, you haven't really sold me. I think you traded away the younger version of the same player for a crustier version. I don't know. They didn't seem to like JD Davis that much. I hear you on the trepidation cutting JD Martinez because if he just needs a little IL stint for 10 days and he can come back and crush the rest of the way, maybe. But the 1 homer since July, I'm looking to cut him, to be honest. If I can't find anybody, I won't cut him, but I'm looking to cut him.
Guys available in our main event that I would rather have: JJ Bleday, Connor Joe, Nolan Jones.
What about Christopher Morel was cut back into the pool, and he's moved down to the lineup. Now he hasn't been playing as well. Let me be clear. Is he somebody you'd take a shot back on?
Because he at least has speed too. So like you're getting some power, some speed. On a team that I know he hasn't played necessarily every day right now, but that team's not good enough to keep him out of the lineup if he starts to hit again.
He still played 4 out of the last 5. He was injured for one of them, so 4 out of the last 6, but 1 he couldn't play. So Christopher Morel did move down in the lineup. Ortega has overtaken him at the number 1 spot, but at least he's playing. And this would be one where like, okay, you realize I got to go all speed, and normally you wouldn't cut Christopher or JD Martinez for Christopher Morel, but in this instance, it makes some sense because JD ain't stealing any bases, and Morel could get you 6-7 steals the rest of the way type deal.
Even a guy like Tyler Naquin, who's in a strong side platoon in New York, he over the last 14 days, he's hitting 367 with 3 home runs and a stolen base.
When he gets dialed, he can go for a while too. He could go the rest of the season. Naquin could, if he's healthy, just crushing righties. And they only have 1 lefty next week, actually 2. Fried to open the week, and then possibly David Peterson on a Saturday doubleheader. Other than that, it's all righties for the Mets next week for Naquin.
Shout out to your guy Terran Vavra, who's hitting 370 since being called up. No home runs, no stolen bases yet.
Fair. But where's he batting to? Middle of the order recently.
Yeah. So he's another deep league guy that could become really interesting. I don't think there's going to be much power to speak of, but
I agree. But average speed and playing every day or playing pretty regularly, and maybe some speed there too. So that's JD Martinez and Nelson Cruz. We got Keibert Ruiz, and then 1 more after him. Keibert Ruiz is at a 74 WRC plus the last 2 months, 98% rostered in the main event, 68 at ESPN, 59 at Yahoo. Now, 2 catcher formats, I'm not even. I don't even think I'm cutting him in at 10. I'll ride it out. Yeah. What about 1 catcher formats though, in 12s and less, because and 12s and shallower, because Keibert has only been the 17th catcher this year. He's not hitting for the average that we would hope for. That's his calling card, but he's hitting 246, 6 homers, 5 steals. Like I said, that's the 18th catcher. Is he enough to keep in 10 and 12 team 1 catcher formats? Keibert Ruiz.
No, I don't think so.
Keibert, I believe.
I know. I know people are going to be really excited by the 2-home run game the other day, but he just does not put the ball in the air enough to power the ball out on a regular basis. I know he's got 3 home runs in the second half. That's great, but if he had another 3 rest of the way, I'd be really surprised. And while he makes really, really good contact, so much of it's on the ground that, and he's a catcher, he's slow, that they're able to just get him out. Like, he's not going to outrun things. So until that profile changes, I just don't think he's got the safe floor that you were looking for when you drafted him. And at this point, I'd much rather have the upside guy gets hot and can carry me the rest of the way. Absolutely.
And, let me think of some names here that, listen, if you're talking ESPN one catcher formats, MJ Melendez is 30% rostered.
That's insanity.
I'm taking him all day over.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who else I would definitely take. Cal Raleigh.
Yeah.
The singles are starting to fall, so his batting average hasn't been as atrocious. It's still low. You're still getting low batting average, but he was hitting my weight for a while. Now he's up over 200, low 200s, but tons of power. I would rather have him. What about Christian Vasquez in Houston or Ruiz? They're about equally rostered at ESPN. 59% for Ruiz, 57% for Vasquez. Who do you like better there? One catcher format.
I think I like Vasquez, even though he's just not playing quite as much as he did in Boston. So, I think I'd still go Vasquez, though. Upside, you get power, you get a little bit of stolen bases too, potentially. So
William Contreras is only 31% rostered at ESPN, and Keibert is in the 60s. That I don't understand. That's an easy flip for me. All right, last one. This one's tough. I'm not sure I can cut him personally, but I want to bring him up because he is struggling and he's hit that rookie wall. It looks like Jeremy Pena is down to a 75 WRC plus the last 2 months. 64% at Yahoo, 53% at ESPN. So he's already popping up there, but he's 100% at the OC, which is a 12-teamer at the NFBC. Is he doing enough to still be rostered at 100% in 12-teamers? He hasn't had an OPS over 700 since May.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if he's still hurt.
He's been particularly rough. Let me give you the numbers real quick on Pena. Since the injury return, 199, 222, 344, 6 homers, which is still a 27-homer pace. So the pop is still there, but a 226 BABIP in the 36 games. It's been brutal. And 0 for 2 on the bases.
Yeah, I was just about to say 0 for 2 on the bases as well. Yeah, I think this is a guy that is – I think he's still – and it feels like still injured. He's missed half weeks. This year or since returning from the injury. I just think he's trying to play through something or continue to try to play through something. But that being said, in a redraft league, I think it's okay to let him go, especially if you go get a Grissom, you go get a different middle infielder that makes sense for your team. Obviously, in 15-team leagues, it's going to be harder to do unless you get Grissom. But
yeah, it'd be one of those things where I only put Grissom in the list.
Yeah,
or. What about, here's another one maybe I would put in the list. What about Nick Gordon?
Yeah, he's been playing really, really well.
I like Nick Gordon.
And he's got the outfield eligibility to go along with it.
Yeah. So I know Pena was such a fun player this year, but I think he's hit I think the injuries are probably bigger than the rookie wall. But either way, it's been a little bit rough. I think he is cuttable in some of the shallower formats. In the deeper, you go for Grissom or Nick Gordon, and maybe that's it. Of the other guys I'm seeing here, I'm not sure there's anybody else I'd really change.
Would you do it for Nick Madrigal, who's hitting 400 since returning and stole 2 bases last night?
As long as I can afford to not have the power.
There's zero power.
Yeah,
zero.
There's none. So as long as I can afford that, if my plan is to tack batting average and attack speed, I would do that. But if I can't afford the power loss, I can't do it. Pena for Madrigal.
What about your boy, Terran Vavra? Would you drop Pena for Vavra? Again, no power, and we haven't seen the speed yet.
We haven't seen the speed yet. I would, though, because, again, we're talking since May that Pena has not had a quality month, and that's pre-injury, too. There's some of that pre-injury. The rest it's like 2/3, 1/3 split. But yeah, I think I would go with Vavra right now.
What about Michael Chavez, who is playing every day, hitting 344 over the last 2 weeks with 2 home runs?
That one is tough. I've backed Chavez this year at multiple times. He does have corner middle as well, right?
I believe so, yeah.
12 homers on the year.
Yeah, he's first and second base eligible.
Yeah, because I'm not getting the speed from Pena anyway. So give me the guy who's performing a bit right now. Again, I'll do that more in 12s, 14 or 15 teamers. I'm considering it. Yes.
All right, last one. David Fletcher's back off the IL playing every day, and
he has 2 homers in the last 2 weeks somehow.
Yeah, he's got 2 home runs.
That's a Nick Madrigal situation again. If I can afford to give up the power, I know he has 2 homers, but I don't buy it.
And he's not going to steal bases. He's just just
average.
Yeah, it's just batting average in runs.
Yeah, so that's a Nick. I would rather Madrigal. And again, I'd have to be chasing batting average to specifically do Fletcher for Pena.
I'd have a really hard time doing any of this, to be honest. Like
I understand that. I do understand that. I really do. Because what if it is a little Nick with his injury, and he just needs like 2-3 days off, and he gets back and he pops off for the rest of the year. Pena was amazing to start the year.
Plus, I want any part of this Astros lineup I can
exactly. Get. Yes. By the way, are you surprised that Mancini isn't playing more?
He's not good defensively.
DH him.
Yeah, they have other guys they were like putting in the DH spot. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised.
Yeah.
But maybe this is why they didn't go and get Josh Bell, is because they didn't want to like Gurriel shouldn't be playing at this point. Like I just
no. You got to go look at Gurriel's numbers.
Oh, he's done better?
Yeah. He's got one of those where he has such an anchor at the front end that it's still obscuring the fact that that he's back on track. And now in August, not so much. He's hitting 212, but go look at his July, and even his June was fine. 241 average is not knocking your socks off. He had a 247 BABIP. I think since June, Gurriel's been fine.
Yeah, I mean 247 in the second half, no home runs. 5 stolen bases in the second.
Dude, that's the crazy part. Yeah, since June 1st, 4 homers, 6 steals. You said none of the homers in the second half, but 257 average.
He has as many stolen bases as he has RBIs in the second half. 5.
I don't understand that.
If you had asked me that as like a Final Jeopardy question, I would never get it.
That's going to win somebody a league too. And I love that. I love stuff like that. I really, really do. But yeah, so, I understand why they're sticking with him, though. He's a guy that they have proven track record from. So they're trying to keep him in. But I thought there's a way to play Alvarez, Gurriel, and Mancini every day, but they're just not doing that. And I understand that, too, is like they're kind of coasting. They have an 11-game lead. The Mariners are almost certainly not going to catch them. So they're going to mix in Dubon and McCormick and Aledmus Diaz very consistently. And that's just going to cost Mancini here and there. And even Alvarez sat out against the lefty yesterday, get a chance to get him off his feet. And Gurriel's going to catch a game. So while I am very excited about Mancini being there, and I did suggest that, he could have one of those runs where he hits like 20 over from the deadline on. I don't think he can do that if he's not playing every day. He does have 3 already with them, though.
I mean, part of the problem is, like I said, he's so bad defensively. He has not played the outfield since coming over, and they don't want Alvarez playing the outfield. They want, Alvarez's long-term knee issues. I think they're just very careful. So, like,
see, I thought they got him because he could play the outfield. I thought that's why they liked Mancini.
But he hasn't yet.
No, he hasn't. I mean, you're exactly right.
I think I'm surprised, but I understand why. He's so bad defensively that they're not willing to put him out there, and Alvarez, they want him to DH pretty close to exclusively. So,
and I think they can just afford to kind of meander along, like they're not pressured.
To me, though, then why trade for Mancini? Like that, I don't,
because the depth is worth it. And what if Alvarez is hurt?
But they could have traded for an outfielder. Like, they could have traded for Michael Taylor.
I thought they were still going to. I thought they should have. I predicted that exact thing on the deadline show. I was like, well, now they should get him for Jake Myers. Not in a trade for Jake Myers, but to replace Jake Myers. And I thought that would have been a great fit for them, but they like Dubon and McCormick and all that. So,
but I think you're right. They are coasting.
Yeah, and that I think part of it is like, hey, we've got him, we got Mancini for the playoffs to hit some key homers. He's depth. We're fine with what we got.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they got him because of infield, outfield, and that way he could play some left field, but they have not put him out there. That is the right left field to put him in, though, is in Minute Maid. Like, that's one where you can hide a bad defender. So, anyway, that's going to wrap us up. Jared Walsh, JP Crawford, Eduardo Escobar, Myles Straw, Nelson Cruz, JD Martinez, Keibert Ruiz, and Jeremy Payne. You need to start considering cutting those guys in some leagues. Bottom line, stay diligent. That was the main point of my article. I even said it at the end. I just spent 1,200 words basically telling you guys to stay diligent, because while there is a lot of time left to still make substantial moves in your league, the time for just kind of acquiring the best talent available and letting it play out is done. You have to start attacking your standings, especially if you're in the bottom half. You have nothing to lose. What do you care if you finish 8th versus 15th? If you're in 8th, find a way to try to get in the money. And if it happens to blow up in your face and you finish 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, who gives a shit? It's no better than 8th. It does not matter. Go for broke. Figure out the best ways to gain the most points, and let's bring home some titles, baby.
Yeah, I'm hoping to bring home a title in doubt. So
you guys going on Sunday? You and Jason?
I got to check with him. I'm available. I haven't been available the last couple weeks just because of the mouth and everything like that. But hopefully we'll for sure in 2 weeks. I will be doing a Sunday episode because we are going to have Ray Murphy of Baseball HQ to talk about First Pitch Arizona.
Yes.
Which I think the next kind of registration deadline to get a discount is August 28th. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You and I will both be there. Jason will be there as well. It's a blast. If you've never been
home run derby this year, by the way, did you know that? I'm so excited.
And it's within the park is within walking distance of the hotel we all stay at.
Yes.
So like it's going to be fantastic. I absolutely can't wait. I think the wife is gonna come again.
I think Deb is too. So they can link up again and have themselves a grand old time. It's amazing. Look, and if you can afford it, do everything you can to get there.
Absolutely.
November 3rd through the 6th. Come hang out with Fantasy Baseball folks. Talk baseball. It's a great it's like what squirrels like hoarding for the winter. It's like I hoard my last big dose of baseball before the winter and take in all that sun from Arizona and hanging out with all y'all and just carry that through the winter. And it's the best. So if you can do it, baseballhq.com /first-pitch-Arizona. Check it out. They have a special room rate on that page. And if you have any questions about it, just ask us. We'll answer any questions. If anything that you're like, I want to do it, but this, ask us. We'll get you in the right answer if we don't have the answer ourselves. But we love it. We go every year. I've been going for like 15 years. Jason been going for 20. You got to be coming up on.
This will be my 3rd time going because of COVID.
I was going to say 4th or 5th, but I forgot about COVID. It cut you a couple times. So and you'll talk to Ray. We'll get more details on it, but I can't wait, man. Anyway, have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.